Okay, so yearbook layout, again, it's judged based on preliminary entries. It needs to be a double page spread, so not just a single page, it needs to be both the left and the right hand side. So I have some of these, I made them big, just so that we could all see. When you are creating when your students are creating their layouts, make sure that your headline, your dominant photo, and the story are all one package. They should all correlate. It's also really nice if like maybe this guy is looking at that headline, but I mean, we don't have to get that specific. So having some overlap, I guess right there is pretty nice on the dominant, but just something to think about. Another element that you need to be thinking about is your space when you are creating layouts. So I always tell my students 3 degrees of separation. So right here, we have a rail of white space. Then we have a pica. And then maybe right there is I mean, that kind of looks like a pica as well, but a hairline or 1 point of space. So having that visual variety with your spacing can help you create an effective layout. These guys do a great job of using modular design. So using that spacing to create the hierarchy on your spread. As a viewer or reader of the spread, I know my eye is going to go right here. Maybe I'm going to explore the story, but then I'm going to come down here and kind of work my way around this spread. This was a Class B winner, if I remember correctly. But again, I think that hierarchy is one of the most important elements. And Angie had said it earlier, her kids don't leave the white space and they fill everything up. And so many times when you're designing on a computer, your elements are all the same size and it's a total fluke, but it's because everything's this big on your computer. So I always tell the students, zoom in a lot and then make sure that you have different sizes with your elements so that you can have that visual hierarchy. The other thing that I was contemplating about when I was looking through these layouts and when we've been judged before is content versus layout. Sometimes I feel like spreads that have really good content or the topic do really well, but maybe their layout I feel like is lacking. But I think that this one over here does a really good job of providing current content, but then also having a really unique layout. I don't know what happened on this slide, so I apologize because these are Class C layouts. Okay, I must have not deleted that slide. So I think this one's another great example of that headline, dominant, story package, and then these modular designs, including some cutouts. If you also notice, even though this is a vertical photo, and softball is very vertical, if this photo was cropped maybe just a little bit differently, then you'd have some horizontal. We talk about not having odd shapes. And there were some schools that broke the rules on that, which is totally fine because I think it fit their theme. But when it says in the rules or in the rubric to have a variety of shapes, they're not talking about hexagons and triangles. They're talking about vertical, horizontal, having some visual variety with that. So establish hierarchy, as I said, consistent typography. Some schools do a really good job of using lots of fonts in the same way, but as a general rule, I would say 2 fonts, maybe 3. If you're using a large font family, you can use all of the fonts within that family if they go together. Some of those online publishers are messing with their fonts and I'm not too happy about them, but because they just look so different and they don't even look like they're related. But anywho, so consistent typography. And even when we talk about hierarchy within design, make sure that your headline is dominant. It should be a big part of your layouts. And then that way your reader knows what I need to read first, second, and third. So it's not just the photos, it's also the type. Make it easy on yourself. So I used to always download my stuff from our online publisher, and then I'd pull it into Photoshop and I'd make a PDF or a PNG or whatever, and then I'd export it. It was a pain. I screenshot everything now and then I just upload it to the NSAA website, and it's so much faster, and I don't have near the glitches. So I would say use screenshots. Another thing that was talked about was placeholder copy. We can't use it. It needs to be whatever's published. I know in the past, maybe a story wasn't done, so we just put in filler text. The way I understand is we're not allowing that. Is that correct?
You should have spreads that are complete and ready to be published or published to be in this category.
So that's the other benefit is if you have a student who is on staff the previous year and they didn't maybe there's a layout from last year's book that they really liked, but it wasn't finished, and they couldn't enter it into state, they can do it as long as they're currently on staff. They can use it, they can use their work from last year as long as it, number one, wasn't entered into last year's contest, and number two, they're still on staff.